All right, let's get started. Hi, I'm Rob Pegoraro, freelance technology journalist for such fine, outstanding sites as USA Today, Yahoo Finance, Fast Company, Wirecutter, Ars Technica, et cetera, et cetera. I've been to 17 major league ballparks.
Cool. My name is Jason Elliott. I'm the 5G Market Development Director at Nokia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Arvin Singh. I'm with Verizon, part of our global enterprise practice around connected solutions. Excited to have the opportunity to speak with you guys about 5G.
Okay, who gets to do the sales pitch first?
Go on, Arvin. You can go first. Talk about Verizon.
So I will talk about 5G, how it meets retail. We've got a few slides here to walk through just to provide a quick level set to the audience. Tremendous opportunity in front of us. One of the most fascinating topics of our time, 5G. And it's not something that's just influencing one particular industry. Every industry on the planet, right? There's tremendous hype that's been talked for a while about 5G and where it's going to take things. What I'm trying to do today is give you a foundational level understanding of what is real 5G and what it takes to stand up a 5G infrastructure that's going to serve not only the retail industry, but every industry out there. Healthcare, manufacturing, and whatnot. So exciting possibilities. The 5G story experience that Verizon partnered with Nokia and others are speaking to has 8 currencies to 5G that are 8 capabilities of 5G that are super critical to understand, because not every 5G experience is designed to deliver a robust experience. So as you think about this, we're building a game-changing platform for innovation that's designed to meet these 8 key characteristics in terms of technology capabilities. Speeds of gigabit per second speeds, up to 10 gigabit per second speeds wirelessly. Think about fiber-like speeds without wires. Tremendous capability, never been done before in a cellular wireless infrastructure. So it's a new. Throughput, the ability to serve 1,000 times more capacity in the wireless network infrastructure. Latency of under 10 millisecond round trip latency. We're talking about latency that's going to be faster than the blink of human eye. Also unheard of in this space. Reliability is an all-time high here. 5 nines reliability with the cellular wireless network technology. This is super amazing, particularly for the retail vertical. We'll talk to that. As you think about deployment, the ability to get services out there a lot faster, the ability to do this much more efficiently. Energy efficiency of this new 5G next generation infrastructure is 1/10 of the power consumptions of the networks of today, which is remarkable. 10-year battery life on devices. The ability to serve million connected devices in 1 square kilometer radius. So the density of IoT type of connections, sensors, smart shelves, apparels, and whatnot, all in the same general area becomes super critical. So this is an opportunity, again, to serve each experience precisely, robustly, securely, with the appropriate parameters, QoS, quality of service, and whatnot. So again, the vision is to deliver a seamless, hyper-personalized experience end-to-end to retail customer consumer experience. So as you think about the critical building blocks, what it takes to get here, everybody has a 5G story we talk about today, but a lot of the work didn't start today, right? I mean, just short 5 years ago, the vision was to launch a commercial 5G network in 2020. Oh, by the way, the commercial 5G networks have launched in 2018. You know, we've been doing live testing in networks with users and vendors since 2016, 2017 era. So these are the key attributes that come together to deliver a robust 5G experience that gives you the 8 attributes from the previous slide. Fiber. We're talking about extremely dense fiber deployment, right? Verizon made some announcements around $1 billion investment with just one single fiber provider to plumb 36 million route miles of fiber. And this is not your typical fiber deployment of 80 to 120 strands of fiber. We're talking about fiber that goes up to north of 1,000 strands of fiber. So the ability to, again, serve all customer types on the same general infrastructure that's being stood up is super remarkable. And the fact that we're plumbing this about 1,500 miles per month, and some months north of that, that's remarkable as well. Spectrum. You gotta be able to provide lanes of highway in the network that is far greater than the lanes of highway today. World of 4G, we're hovering around 100 to 120 lane highway in the networks of today with the low band spectrum. This is where millimeter wave spectrum got introduced, high band spectrum, where there's 1,000 megahertz swath of spectrum, 1,000 lane highway to be able to serve the immersive experiences, the high bandwidth, low latency, high security, high fidelity experiences on this network. Software-defined networks, that is the key foundation. It's the bottom line that is going to help enable service-based architecture, network slicing functionality of 5G in the future. And then edge compute. We've made a lot of buzz about edge compute, the ability to bring cloud capabilities, compute and storage to the far edge of the network. Instead of traffic leaving and traveling 2,000 miles in the network, it's now going hopefully the last 20 miles or the last 200 miles. So edge could be on-prem at the retailer, edge could be at far edge of the operator's network, right? So in addition to that, this is standards-based 5G. 5G NR in red is the new radio specification. So you need new 5G NR cell sites, and you need devices that have the modem that has 5G NR modem in it, the X50 or X55 Qualcomm modems, and many more, right? So these are the key things that come together to give you a true 5G experience. Now, in terms of a retail experience, there's a lot here. I'm going to share some of my time with my partner Jason here to unpack this, but as you can imagine, this is bringing a lot of possibilities together, right? From autonomous checkouts to autonomous supply chain management, the notion of having SME level expertise in a moment's notice in front of you, having immersive engagement, AR, VR, XR, being able to hold your phone and get details about products and specifications if you have allergy issues and whatnot. Being able to get in front of mirrors and stuff that try clothing and share with your social influence. A lot of those things come together here. So I'll turn it over to Jason, and we'll take some questions towards the end.
Cool. Thank you very much, Arvin. You set me up. That's good. So when we think about it, if we could just go to the Nokia slides, that'd be great. So at Nokia, we are the only global 5G end-to-end infrastructure provider. We have around 63 commercial contracts globally right now, about 20 live networks already in market. So what we're going to see in 2020 is a huge scaling up of different types of use cases for 5G in terms of scale. And like Arvin just talked about there with the different types of use cases, if you think about how 5G is getting deployed now, it's primarily talking about the actual consumer different types of experiences. So the capabilities that are in the network today are the enhanced mobile broadband piece that you talked about and increasing the capacity on the network. So this is great for consumer type experiences. And when we think about how we interact today as consumers, a lot of this is around 2D information, both video and textual information. But really what 5G is going to enable the consumer to do is go from a two-dimensional world environment to a three-dimensional and volumetric video type environment really in the future. And that's really where we talk about immersive experiences that also provide things like tactile or haptic feedback as well in the future as we progress with the different types of capabilities in 5G. And that's really going to drive a new kind of bridge the gap between what you do in physical stores and then what you do online to kind of bridge those gaps even closer moving forward in the future. The other thing about experiences goes beyond the consumer is this notion of digital trust. So digital trust really, if you think about security, obviously security is kind of like the belt and braces to make sure that the customer data and financial transactions are secure. That's something that we must always do and should always do. But digital trust is talking about how we can build platforms and architectures on how subscribers and consumers can share their information and be able to give information back to retailers and manufacturers so that they can get more personalized experiences. Right now, there's a very kind of challenged dichotomy in the market right now where obviously people don't know, we don't know obviously how all the data gets used. And it's very important to kind of think about how we can build platforms, policies and services to kind of build more of a digital trust framework in the future going forward. And that's very, very apparent because that will kind of bring about much, much larger scale of success, much more insights into those consumers. Now, the next phase of 5G, which is starting to get deployed throughout the later of this year, this is really why 5G came about. So if you think about 2G built for voice, 3G for web and data, 4G was really mobile broadband video. So 5G is really kind of being able to cope with all of those services that we have today and also the remote control of machines. using real-time critical information control systems. And that's really talking about industrial automation at a massive scale, along with all of the other different types of services that we have today. And this is really what's going to drive huge amounts of transformation. We don't know right now exactly how impactful that's going to be. If you think about how impactful 4G was with all the different types of services that we have today, things like ride sharing and all the video distribution services, when we look back, I think in another decade, we'll say, wow, 5G was truly transformational, not for consumers, but for business. And that actually has a very, very good positive impact for consumers as well. So industrial automation in terms of the supply chain, so getting raw materials, understanding where those raw materials come from, what you need in inventory, how you do your manufacturing processes in terms of quality control and audits, using robotic systems that are connected to an edge cloud platform to do transformational types of activities. And then obviously moving to logistics, where we're combining both drones and vehicle-based systems to change the different types of delivery models we have. And then thinking about in-store as well. So a lot of stores right now are temporary or seasonal. You also have lots of different types of branch offices. So 5G can also add capabilities because of the bandwidth and low latency for things like pop-up stores as well. And we're using a lot of video analytics systems to look at footfall and how we can actually use sensors on a massive scale. So we use IoT today, and obviously we do that. Verizon does this on those services today with the IoT network. But when we talk about 5G, we're moving from millions of devices to billions of devices at massive scale. So all those capabilities together will drive a new, different type of business paradigm. And what's really important for businesses today in boardroom discussions is to talk about sustainability, because we cannot scale and we cannot move forward right now if we don't start to look at how we can use 5G technology to scale our business in a sensible way because of the resources. And actually, the interesting factor is a lot of the consumers today, the younger consumers, are actually making their purchasing decisions based on different types of sustainability models, like thinking about, okay, how does this company talk about sustainability? What resources are they using? So this isn't going to be just like a nice-to-have boardroom discussion. This is going to be a critical decision that businesses need to take, and 5G will be a great enabler to help them meet those sustainability goals in the future. Okay.
All right. So I want to get into specifics, because so much of 5G discussion is this hand-wavy, this is going to change everything, man. So it's 5 years from now, I walk into a 5G-enabled store. What is the thing I see or hear that tells me that 5G is making this store something an experience I wouldn't have had 5 years earlier?
I think the confluence of a couple of things. So from a consumer perspective, as you walk in, I think AR will play a huge role. VR maybe less so. The ability to kind of...
No one's going to slap a VR headset on my face?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be... You know, the VR thing has its place probably in the home or certain environments, but I think AR will become very much more pervasive in the future, both for the consumer to actually interact with products and services, and also sales staff as well, support staff to do kind of like a hands-free type environment, so that frees them up to do other types of activities as well. So I think that's a big one, early first step.
Yeah, the other thing I'd add to that is you can't ignore the power behind AI and computer vision and the IoT sensors coming together, right? This just using video in a very intelligent fashion, yeah. Facial recognition, being able to create VIP experiences when you walk into the store. Before you even get into the store, the person will be ready to serve you differently. And then the availability, right? Just use of drones and bots within the store environment, inventory placement, pricing, all these things change, right? The frictionless engagement, if I may.
So the drone's going to greet me by name?
Well, when the convenience appetite is there, humans would be open to that. Today, we are not quite there, right? But that in due time, that will happen as well.
Okay, so I have to ask the sort of devil's advocate question.
Yep.
How much of this is 5G required versus you need some sort of fast bandwidth? So whether it is 5G to the store or fiber to the store or 5G inside it or Wi-Fi 6 or 7 or whatever we're up to by then.
Terrific question, Rob. So a lot of this, the way to think about it is up to this point, we've used 4G to enable some of the capabilities. The last mile connectivity into stores, whether it was business continuity requirements for retailers to have it, 4G as a backup. In some cases, 4G as a primary with software-defined WAN infrastructure deployments. Now being able to use 5G is super viable because 5G gives you a lot faster speeds, a lot more capacity in the network. It is, Jason touched on this, it's something that's designed for enterprise and business first, right? 5G isn't designed to solve for mass consumer, just high-speed broadband in everybody's pocket, because that is not going to make the business case for 5G. The transformative possibilities of 5G really, truly comes alive with all these other business, vertical use case enablement opportunities. And really, when you think about it, everything we've said so far, I mean, Jason and I have been having this conversation where 5G is like the rocket fuel for all else that's been around for a while. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, computer vision, all these things will be a lot more pervasive in our lives in the future than it is today.
I think I know the answer given how much Verizon has stressed millimeter wave, but important to note that there are many different flavors of 5G. There's millimeter wave, there's sub-6, where we don't really have the spectrum yet. Then there's 5G on existing frequencies, which a friend of mine called more like 4.9G. In this vision, does this require millimeter wave, or is this something you can also build out on a sub-6, a mid-band 5G network?
Another very critical question. So look, 5G is a spectrum agnostic technology, right? 5G, Verizon has a broad view of the strategy of 5G. I mean, in fact, when we started on the journey in 2015, we were lagging behind some of the three other countries in Asia Pac, right? In terms of putting the United States out there from a 5G vision standpoint. But really, when you think about it, the strategy is holistic. Low-band spectrum, mid-band spectrum, and high-band spectrum. We are absolutely going to be leveraging the existing low-band spectrum assets we have. There's a component of the technology called DSS, Dynamic Spectrum Sharing, that's coming out later on next year, that's going to allow operators like Verizon to be able to use your existing spectrum bands that are deployed to carry 4G and 5G traffic in the low-band spectrum. So 2.6 million miles of LTE coverage can turn into 5G coverage in future state, right? With 5G NR radios, with software upgrades.
So in terms of deployment, one metric I'm looking for is at what point will Verizon have millimeter wave 5G to most or enough of its retail stores?
Yeah, great point. So listen, we also believe in drinking our champagne or flying our own jets, right? So a lot of the things we look at around retail and innovations, sure enough, we have 5G turned on at select retail stores. We're doing our own testing and creating more immersive experiences. But I think the question should be, when will Verizon have 5G at our own retail stores, not just millimeter wave 5G? I think it's going to be a lot sooner than most people expect. Because as we start to leverage all spectrum bands, the ability to scale 5G becomes that much faster. So I think what we've publicly said is, in 2021 timeframe, 50% of the US is going to be in 5G coverage, right? Some form of 5G coverage.
That's good.
I want to pick up on what you said before about the benefits for businesses versus consumers. So how much of this potential transformation will be things that aren't obvious in stores, but do come from things like more efficient supply chains and better logistics?
Yeah, I think if you look at the heavy physical industries today, like manufacturing, a very, very small percentage has been able to go through digital transformation because they have very strict operational requirements. So things like supply chain, manufacturing, they haven't been able to take wireless capabilities yet because they have these very strict operating requirements in terms of reliability and also in terms of like latency. So now we've removed those barriers, right? That's what we've done with 5G, is remove those barriers so they can start that digital transformation process. So if you're manufacturing goods, if you're doing in part of the supply chain, there's a huge amount of opportunity. This is probably the biggest area right now over time where we see the biggest transformation happening, I think.
And so from the consumer, and my follow-up on that is when I think about what 4G did for retail, I think, well, it made it easy to check prices at other stores. What's 5G going to do for that? Make me even less of a faithful shopper?
No. I mean, I think, well, one of the things I do think is as we move from this two-dimensional world to the three-dimensional world and the ways we actually interact with the products virtually and physically, There's a potential there to actually create more stickiness for brands, actually. Because right now, if you think about the time you have with a consumer, if they're physically in store, how can you create that same kind of experience out of store? So if you can start to do that with volumetric video and capture and other types of VR type technologies, you can create that continuity, of if they were in the store before or if they weren't in the store before, how you can get them to the store and then keep them engaged actually when they leave the store, even if they haven't made the purchase at that point. If you've got something like a 3D volumetric video and you can actually still interact with the product, it creates more stickiness over time. And I think brands have a great opportunity to be able to leverage that.
So since we're at CES, I've got to make this my last question. Will 5G make the shuttle bus lines any less terrible?
You have to also ask the autonomous vehicle guys that question. Yeah, it's a great question. That's another transformative thing. And the interesting thing about this 2020, as Arvin said, 2021 timeframe, you have 5G, which is the capabilities, the underlying connectivity capabilities to transform everything. You have the autonomous vehicles and the technology associated with that. You have AR and VR headsets that are getting more mature, and then other technologies like AI and blockchain. So all these things are kind of coming together in this fantastic confluence right now that I think that we haven't really no one's really looked at the broad picture of that. And I think that confluence of all those technologies is absolutely ripe to create this massive transformation over the next decade. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, the only thought I'd add to that is 4G is here to stay for the long haul. It's not going away. Right. 5G is not intended to be a replacement technology. So it's critical to understand the robust roadmap of 4G and the gigabit LTE possibilities. So you don't have to wait for 5G to come to you. There's a lot that you can be doing, partnering with the industry experts, the vendor ecosystems, to be able to assess the lessons learned and define your strategy and how you can create more immersive engagements. But ultimately, to your question about autonomous shuttles, absolutely. The very foundation of a lot of those would be a combination of 5G, computer vision, AI, machine learning, and all of these things that, again, will be rocket fueled by 5G.
All right, so we've covered 5G, AI, autonomous vehicles, and blockchain. I hope this has really helped your buzzword bingo game. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you.